All right, I'll go ahead and call us to order for the Veterans Memorial Advisory Task Force for today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. Right now, we're going to go back and we're going to the approval for the minutes from November 14th. Is there any questions, changes, or do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. All right. Introductions of our guests, as usually.
I'm here for Ford.
Yep.
And I'm Rex Ice, y'all know.
All right. So now here we are, already at number 4. So we're going to kind of continue from the discussion and kind of a discussion / workshop on the potential concepts for our future comprehensive Veterans Memorial. And I think Jason's got some stuff to show us. For those that weren't here last time, we kind of started getting stuff down, and then I typed it all up and kind of got it over to Casey. If there's anything anybody else has to add to that list, let's go ahead and start. You can jot it down there and then turn it in, hand it to him at the end if anybody else wants to put some stuff on there. So this was just kind of some thoughts that we had on there. One of them that I saw while I was even doing some more research was thinking about, boy, it'd be nice to redevelop that pond. Kind of get some stuff along the banks of it and everything, and actually make that as part of the walking trails itself too. Because it seems like that would be a really waste if we didn't, as we're doing this, if we want to start calling the Comprehensive Veterans Memorial Park and everything. So there's some, I think also there's a great opportunity, because we keep on saying, well, let's look at something along the water. Well, why can't it be all the way around the water? Go ahead, ma'am.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to ask Casey if the land on the west side of the pond, where all those buildings are, where they look out onto the pond,
Ownership?
does their ownership come up to the edge of the water, or does their
I don't think so,
amount
but
of
we
land
would just
that's-
need to look into that
that's
to
still
confirm.
city land?
That was at the previous firm that I worked at. That was one of our clients. And so I could email and ask about that and say, hey, if they still have the surveys for those. And we could take a look at all that Fisher Hall stuff right there.
Because we used to live in Stonebridge, and
Right.
we would go to the dog park to walk the
Yeah.
dog, and we would cut through those buildings,
Mhm.
walk along the back of their property, we thought,
Yeah.
and the pond, and then go in that back entrance to
Right.
the dog park. And a lot of people did that.
Yeah, I never noticed that until my dog got out through there, so. And trying to run after a golden retriever who's figured out a new way to get home or somewhere, it's not really fun, so. But yeah, and that was came into my mind, just kind of looking at it overall as saying, okay, hey, there's another part of this, of our design to look at too, possibly. Saying, let's go ahead and look at that pond to try to, look at redeveloping around that, so.
And before you get too deep, can I just throw out just some
Yeah.
quick housekeeping just to help frame your thoughts and your mental time clock? You are scheduled to meet tonight. You're scheduled to meet December 19th. And I think I also put January 2nd on the books by your request. We also have moved forward and scheduled the City Council presentation workshop on January 28th. The City Council extended this through the end of January, so just keep all that in mind as far as how you're using your time and what you have left to work with. Concept, and then also your discussion about potential budget, funding sources, those sorts of things. Just want to kind of throw that reminder out there.
I just have a quick question. What do you mean by charging station on this?
Like a charging station,
Yeah.
like a smart car charging station, like you actually put an
Okay.
electrical,
Like for a
yeah.
Nissan Leaf, like that kind of thing is what you
Well, those
Yeah.
types of things, because you can
Okay.
get city can apply and get a grant for one of those things, and it's free.
Alright.
So you put one of those in Teslas or anything like that. And, I mean, there'll be some of the stuff too, like I'm on the Midtown Redevelopment Board of Directors and down in Midtown Oklahoma City. We have benches that if you sit down at, has a USB port and it's got a solar panel on the back of it and stuff. So, I mean, they're like, you can just sit there and charge your phone for free and stuff. So
Okay.
there could be some of that type of stuff throughout everywhere.
What do you think, January the 8th?
Second, January 2nd.
Okay.
Casey, you mentioned budget. Do we have
Well, no, I think the charge that you were given is not to limit yourself budget-wise, but there's not an unlimited budget. So I think you guys figure out how that works.
Well, I think that that's part of, let's just go ahead and give them the big stake and then let the city say, okay, we can phase it out in pieces over time, just like most large park projects and stuff like that. You never know, they might have a capital fundraising campaign in mind and say, hey, let's
Now,
do a,
But that's part of our charge was budget.
Yes, to talk about what you think. So you're going to present a concept. What roughly is that going to cost? So yes, that will be something that you do present. So if you know what this is.
less than $100 million.
Really hard to say. I mean,
Between $1 million and less than 100.
you know, a lot of it's landscaping,
Yeah.
so, you know, that helps, but this could be $500,000 to over $1 million. I just,
I mean, and, you know, I would say that's gonna probably eat up, you know, 300,000 between, you know, with all the other professional services and stuff that have to be tied into there. And then all of this is probably gonna be another, I mean, you're probably looking at it probably 1.5, I would think, somewhere, and that would be a good high estimate just for some of this stuff.
yeah, I mean, if we're
Oh,
talking
so you're not
about
using
finishes.
the government multiplier of 3 and like 1.5?
No, we can actually kind of give you, but I think that's where we, you know, again, it's, you know, if we're saying, hey, let's just go ahead and look at the whole park as a whole, that the whole thing would cost, let's say, $10 million for every piece of it. How do you break those off into line item chunks and say, okay, obviously, this is our first, most important stuff. If we did something over here, down here, or whatever, that would be different ones, and maybe that happens on, you know, when they can get around to it.
I've got connections to
Yeah.
contractors. I can
Right, yeah.
have somebody look at it and just get a ballpark.
Yeah, yeah, and stuff, and so we
I don't know
can,
if that's,
That's a discussion for a future meeting.
okay.
Is that your next item, once you guys figure out kind of.
Okay, I mean, if we want to do that, do you think that they'd be willing to even come in and talk to us
I could either
here?
get somebody to do that, or I could just send the model and
Okay.
kind of just get some feedback on, I mean, it'd be a range, obviously.
Right, yeah,
but-
yeah, I mean,
That's probably all you would really need.
yeah, and stuff, and so they would, you know, do that. Who would it be?
I know people at Manhattan,
Yeah,
Flintco.
okay. Yeah, because I think a lot of stuff like this, you know, a lot of contractors would love to get on board with something, you know, those ones that are really, you know, veteran heavy, you know, J.E. Dunn, and even like G. Johnson, a lot of these other contracting firms, and some of the more local ones and stuff like that would probably would do.
There's also grant funding available,
Yeah,
and I work with a lot of that, so I
Oh,
can
yeah.
kind of keep my eye open for, I know the Margaret Annis Boyce
Mhm.
grant is for landscaping and.
right, so we can talk to
trees.
Brian and, you know, say, hey, I mean, that's kind of his thing, is all the landscaping and everything like that, and I'm sure there's, the Kirkpatrick Foundation, since he was an admiral, might, you know, want to throw in some money and stuff like that, so.
Well, you know, we've got plenty of areas for donor
Yeah.
opportunities. so,
Right.
You know, we can,
So I think if we just came in and said, okay, hey, starting off, you know, we get a couple guys say, okay, we're looking at probably around $3 million. And then that's up to the, whatever committee to go out and start talking to some of these organizations and start getting some funding for that and everything, so. So do you want to kind of go over
Yeah,
where
I
you
mean,
are
just
right now?
Basically, just kind of looked at our notes from our last meeting, and the main thing we talked about doing was pushing it forward for more visibility from 33rd Street. So that's one of the things that I did, to kind of give you an idea. It gives it a lot more street presence by pushing it forward. I know we had it pushed back quite a ways, so I took that tip of the memorial and kind of pushed it up. And then also looked at, let me turn these shadows off. This is just a very simple entry, and it's open to discussion. You know, I didn't put a whole lot of time into the design of it because I don't know if that's something that we want to get into. It's basically just big enough for about 3 stalls for the women, 3 for the men, and there's a little area for storage. And then I thought, you know, some sort of a gate or fence might be a good idea so they can shut the park down. The roof structure just kind of mimics that architecture. And you know, I think that the entry, you can kind of get a good view looking down into the memorial. I think the thing that we got to be careful of is we don't want to design something so elaborate that it really competes with the memorial. So, and, you know, if it gets too big or too tall, I think that may be something that we got to think about. So, you know, again, this was just a starting point for discussion. I think I spent, you know, half a day just kind of working on that. So if you guys have comments or, you know, feel free to tear it apart. You know, it's not gonna hurt my feelings. The thing that I think we really want to do is look at the trailheads. We'd have to rework those.
Right.
So I think having a separate entrance into the park,
Mhm.
and then if this is closed down, people can still get to the trails.
Right.
And then back here, a pavilion of some sort.
Mhm.
I don't know that we want to get into the design of that.
Just even a modern pavilion looking like that would be, I don't know, those metal panels would be something
Something.
pretty,
Wood construction.
yeah, just basic. And then plus it has the roof pitch house design, which kind of mimics what was there before and what's obviously to the
Yeah,
east of it.
there's an axis here
Mhm.
that, you know, try to line up with, so you can see.
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know, an area right here, just kind of a sitting area for, you know, we've mentioned separate area for contemplation. We could look at maybe putting the statues or bringing the other statues from around the city.
Or if there's something else that ends up over
Yeah,
time.
I don't
Well,
anticipate anything's gonna move.
Well, even over time, let's just say somebody wants to come out, I mean, since we are real big into the art here, somebody might want to come out and say, hey, yeah, we'd like to donate something there.
Or, you know, you could commission a
Yeah.
new statue or something.
That's be a phase 2 type of a thing.
Yeah, but another donor opportunity, a bench.
Mhm.
And then, you know, I thought the connection to the lakefront seems to be something that we keep talking
Mhm.
about. So, you know, some sort of a trail where there's asphalt with maybe some landscaping or something like that, I think
Right.
would be
It-
what we could look at. And then of course, the connection to the,
Can you hold it right there? Kind of what I was thinking about when I saw one of the pictures is something, and of course, they did it in China, where they redid the banks around a kind of a pond area. Was going back to your statement about was it the FDR, where it kind of had some waterfalling type stuff, is, as this, if we to come in here and kind of rework this a little bit, is kind of set something up to where it fills up and then falls down, so it has kind of these little pools, so it creates that type of a sound, type of a stuff. Because if they redo the park, you know, we still, you know, I don't want Kimber running over here and everything, so it kind of does create some of a kind of a separation without a fence there. And so I think that that's where we can start to redo some of that stuff there and create kind of larger, you know, kind of a step, but it's like a large bench and stuff, so and it peels back down into the landscape, and that way you can go and you sit on a rock or a bench, but it's also part of a step down into, you know, from the water and everything. And how it can be designed is that obviously if we experience 2 days of our 500-year rains, then that's fine, it fills up and then it just goes back down, and send a crew out there and just hose it off and
Like a
stuff.
retaining wall?
No, I'll have to send Casey some pictures to have it put out there and stuff, so.
you know, I think obviously, you know, again, talking about budget, you know, I think we gotta be careful about what type of material we select. And if we go stone, then it's obviously gonna be more expensive
Oh,
than
yeah.
asphalt. So, I think that, you know, that could be something that we just present to the city and say, this is just the overall concept as far as
Right.
finishes go, you know, whatever the budget will allow.
Yeah, and I think that that'll get it more into what's next, getting into the materials and everything, because there's some other stuff that, who knows, because once the landscape architect gets a hold of it, I mean, he'll know more about some of that type of stuff than we'll be more up to date on stuff like that.
But I'm curious to hear what everybody thinks. I mean, do you think that, you know, some of these elements are worth investigating? I mean, we've extended an area back here for a pavilion so that maybe the space can be rented out without interfering with, you know, what's going on with, if there's a memorial or something
Right.
taking place. Does it need to be pushed further back? Are we getting into an area here where we're worried about getting into the native landscaping and vegetation? Is that an issue? You know, I don't know. And
Well,
obviously,
on that native landscaping and stuff, I'll tell you guys is that once these contractors get out there with their excavators and their bulldozers and stuff, they're gonna screw it all up. So if you think it's gonna be pristine and nice and you're gonna go out there during the whole construction and you're not gonna get dirty, that's not, yeah, that's a bad thought. But it'll grow back, right? I mean, obviously, when we do this stuff, that when it goes into when we're writing it, we'll say, hey, we need it to get back to, and they will restore it, and it might take a little bit of time, but it's not exactly gonna be, it's a construction site, so. Sir?
Yeah, I missed meetings, you may have discussed this, but that pond, did we decide it was spring fed or is it just drainage?
It's fed.
It's a historic, it's been there.
Through there, and then it comes back down through here's another one. So
Yeah,
it's,
well,
but it does serve purpose of I think it does serve purpose of a runoff
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
for the Fisher Hall development to the west.
So do we know the variance in depth or, what it gets down to or anything? The reason I ask is I have a pond behind my house. and
Right.
They drilled a well and feed it when it gets down to a certain level. We don't want that thing looking like a mud hole.
Right, yeah, no.
No, there's always water.
There's always water.
One other question, that one time we had discussed, and I don't know if this was just thrown out or we just discussed it in passing, but a memorial for dogs near the dog park.
Yes.
That would, commemorate police and military dogs.
Right.
Is that still in the plan?
Yes, and so one of the things that I put on there is if there's going to be a dog park redevelopment, well, it doesn't make sense for that committee to sit over there and we don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just go ahead and do it all as one.
Yeah.
And that's something that with this recommendation, that if the city staff hasn't thought about that, we need to collapse that into one. There's no reason to do this and then do that, and then we kind of
It
butt
may not be
heads.
part of this, but it might be part of theirs.
Right, and so that we coordinate all that together, so that's where, with the parking, however, this gets redone, and obviously, engineering surveys, and they wanted to relocate kind of an entrance over here, and so some of the things we thought about, like over here might be a statue or something that for, military or police working dogs, everything, so. Which actually one was killed a couple days ago, and the rangers that got killed, well, the dog actually was able to save, because it flushed out the enemy and got killed itself, was able to save everybody else from getting the stuff, so. But yes, that is definitely in the works, because we, even if it's here, or does it come down here, and, and kind of some of that area where it's its own path into the tree areas, and so it's kind of its own separate kind of a reflection type of an area for that.
Okay.
Casey,
Yes.
does this project create CPI funds?
What do you mean create?
Well, like the matching, when the city does something and 1% goes for public art, like for
If
impact,
if
for
it's a,
matching?
yeah, if it's a, I don't know what triggers that in the CIP.
Or CIP, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Just, when
Right.
the city does,
Yeah.
a street project or a new building or something like that, 1% in Edmond goes to public art.
Right.
And so the
At that
Edmond Visual
project,
Arts
yeah.
Commission
Mhm.
decides what that's gonna be spent for, and there's matching funds and all kinds of
Yeah.
things. So if there were, that would be a way to get some of these sculptures.
Yeah, and on
That
some of
we're
the
talking
projects,
about.
like my Bank First projects that I worked on, that was part of our approval, was going through and making sure there was some kind of artwork out there and everything. So, so a lot of the funding sources and everything like that, once we get into there, that's their responsibility to kind of, we take kind of the numbers and then how to fund it, and then, if there is something where it is a capital improvement, or is there other funds that have been sitting aside for whatever, that can be utilized for these type of things.
So I'm a little concerned about the location of the pavilion. It looks really nice, but I worry that if you're having like a kid's birthday party, it might detract from the memorial. So I was wondering if maybe another location was better for that. But also, as you move it closer to the park, you're moving it farther away from bathrooms, so.
I think, and this was one of my thoughts on it, and I understand what you're saying is, you know, should there be another one down here that's kind of programmed more for that has an additional set of, you know, one-hole restrooms and stuff down through here?
There actually is, at the adjacent park over here, I believe there's a pavilion at that park already.
Well,
At
there's-
Whispering Heights.
Yeah, there is something, but I mean, they just use porta johns and they're right there.
Right, but, yes, but
So-
yes. Well, but if you're putting the restrooms in the memorial, if you go with what Jason was saying, you don't necessarily have to have a pavilion with restrooms. Well, if you already have restrooms
Yeah.
available. So, pushing it too far back to where it's really close to another one, you know, you may have two that are too close together too, so.
I guess it just depends on whether we're seeing this pavilion as like a rental space for the city, or if it's more of like, if you are having a class visit and they're using that space to eat lunch and like reflect.
I thought, you know, one of the things we did talk about is that there should be one for rentals for birthdays and everything. But there should also be a space that, you know, this one dictates either it's not for that type of stuff, or it might be for a retirement ceremony, a pinning ceremony, or, you know, that is used for a, you know, a funeral service, right, and stuff. So we take, you know, if there is a birthday event one, that those could be somewhere maybe a little bit, still in proximity to it, but a little bit farther back and stuff. So.
But how do you regulate that? I mean, can people just do what they want once it's there?
No, you gotta file it, when you file your application,
Oh, okay.
you're renting unit 1 or you're renting unit 2. And then they say, well, what's the purpose? Well, I'm there to have my son's 5th grade or 5th birthday party. And I'm bringing all the clowns and everything out and jump out or whatever.
Just seems
You're
like if it could
no.
serve both purposes at once, that would be even better than having distinct purposes.
Well,
So there's about 100 feet.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that that's a valid point. though,
Correct.
Because if you have somebody that comes to visit the memorial and then you've got a party going on, that could be disruptive, so.
And you have to walk through that party to get to the reflection space.
Yeah, and that's another good point too. I mean, we could, I guess part of what I was thinking is somebody had mentioned last time, if it's hot, you know, if somebody wanted to get some shade, they could just step in a pavilion. But if there's an event going on, then you can't really do that. So, in order to get to this space, you gotta go through the pavilion. Maybe this shifts off to the side
Or something like that, yeah.
or,
There was
kinda-
even, I saw there's a new park, the Manuel Perez Park's being redeveloped in Oklahoma City on the south side of the river. They kind of just had some pergola shade structure come up and over, right, and stuff. So it kind of, you know, it's not, we could design it in a way to make it fit in and it kind of, you know, and help add to everything and wouldn't take away from.
maybe there's just some trails that kind of go around that space. You know, and maybe along the back side of this flag plaza, we have some, you know, something like that.
Yes, shade structures.
Matthew?
Yes, sir.
I'm worried a little bit of where the steps are. If somewhere in that vicinity, we don't also need a handicap ramp. Obviously, they can walk out the front and walk clear around.
Right.
But it just,
Okay. Well, something like that, because of that depth, we would have to, and then maybe that can be, that's gonna
It's about 107 feet to get around
be, yeah.
on the backside. Anyway.
Yeah, so if you're trying to get somewhere, you're talking about right here, sir?
yeah.
You know, something like that, you know, maybe we incorporate, could we do some kind of a.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Well, and, yeah, because it's gonna get, because of the code on that,
What is that, about a 10-foot?
so that's, you gotta go out, basically your ramp has to be 120 feet total, but it can't be consecutive. It has to go for so long, stop, flat, turn, back, so you're talking multiple switchbacks
I know
and stuff, so that's, it's, So,
There's about 55 feet, so it'd be, I mean, you've got to have, every 30 feet, you've got to have a landing.
you gotta have a landing and then everything, so it can get very, next thing you know, you've got, you know,
Skateboard
yeah,
paradise.
yeah, well, you've just got a huge area off the side, but that,
I mean, but-
well, I would say we put that down though, and that's part of the landscape architect's charge, is to say, look, you've done these before. I mean, the person who's gonna be applying for this just didn't get out of landscape architecture school, get licensed, go file an LLC and puts his name in it and he wins. I mean, it's gonna be somebody, probably a Howard Fairbairn or something like that, who's here locally, who's really good at this and who's done this before and is gonna say, yeah, well, we can figure this out for you. And stuff. So I'd say we go ahead and we add that to our list as saying, ADA access from our steps and stuff, so.
Well, if we feel strong enough about having a ramp on both ends, then I think we need to show it
Okay.
as part of the design. So, I mean, I mean, by code, we have it covered because our
Right.
ramp is here,
Correct.
but that's a long trek to get.
So do we,
So there enough
So do
room
you
on one or
bring-
the other sides of the steps?
so you
to
bring,
do a-
do you bring another,
A turn?
go to a, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, if there could be a ramp on either one of the sides or both of the sides, if that whole end was steps and ramps, I don't know what the space is and how.
Well, yeah, because you're gonna have to, basically you have to, you're gonna have a certain amount of feet, and then you go 30 feet and you stop, flat area, turn around, go back. And so you're gonna have so many switchbacks,
That would throw off.
that's
the
gonna
overhead.
go, I mean, you're gonna get over to this area. So does it make sense then to create kind of a trail that leads you, in a way back up?
I mean, we can cut a ramp in starting here, and
Yeah.
it's gonna end up
Way back there.
back here.
What is the height difference there though at the back of that?
10 feet.
10 feet?
Did I ever say 12 feet, or was it? Is that the highest?
84.
84, so. You're gonna have to get pretty far out there. So, but those things, again, that's for them to come up with that, right? And since we're sending some members from this group on, hopefully, that if they don't do that, we'll be like, no, that's not, you guys are not listening to what our charge was, what we came up with. I mean, we have to have ADA access from all of it. And that's their talent to take it and go, okay, and come back and say, what is this? Okay, now, just like we did, with us, to take the thing out of our mind and then evolve it into where we are today, it's the same thing for them. And that's their charge. You were gonna say something, sir?
Yeah, as a parent of 3 children and now 5 grandchildren, on the pavilion placement, I was just wondering if it might be a better idea to put it closer to a bathroom.
Well, and that's where, okay, so now we say we need restrooms, access, goes to pavilion. So whatever the gizmo is, that's their job to either say, okay, we can fit one in there, a couple in there and everything, so if it's just, a one-holer for each of them, then it is.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
certainly design restrooms.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's bringing sanitary sewer
Right.
further into the site, which is more money, but
Right.
that's, we put that on the list.
Yeah. And maybe we can get, and then maybe the thing is too, is if, where that pedestrian access to that road is, maybe they can branch off of there, that neighborhood, if they can branch the sewer off there, so thus putting something back there makes more, maybe it's too far away, but you know what? It's gonna save us, $40,000 in just running pipe and having a guy go out there and dig the line, so. I mean, those are the options that get weighted out in another group and stuff, so.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna resurface the parking lot, they're
Yeah.
gonna have to dig.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we've got all of our utilities here, it'd be, you know, easiest to just go ahead and bring it in.
Right, yeah.
At that point, but,
Yeah.
you know, past, we had electrical running to here originally,
Mhm.
and then we have, you know, sanitary
Electrical,
sewer.
right.
Right here, but, yeah, we can have that in.
Yeah. Anybody else have any? Sir?
I'm not convinced that we even need that pavilion. If you look at the memorial, there's a continuity to it that I think it flows great from the two apexes on each end. But all of a sudden, you got this big, to me, it's a big Quonset in the middle of the memorial. I guess if they made it pretty with bricks or rocks or something, to me, it's just an artifact that's sitting there. I mean, it's nice to have a pavilion and a picnic place, but to me, it just really distracts from the overall
I agree with
significance.
you, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see a small one, maybe, but
You can put them on the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it over here on this side,
Like, you know, I think.
over on the east side.
Well, here's something else to consider, excuse me, because I know several people were gone the night when our Parks Director came and spoke. That's when the idea came up that the current pavilion could go away. Their idea was that, well, the current pavilion could go away, we replace it with something else. But quite honestly, you don't need a pavilion there to have parties if there's nothing else to do. So that thinking was, the current thinking before you know any of this goes forward is they may put in a playground by the current pavilion so that it's attractive. Because right now, if there's nothing for people to do, nobody wants to have a birthday party there. You can go to other parks that have pavilions that have things to do. So if you're not going to have any other supporting elements, then you may not need that in this park.
Yeah.
So
And
I just
that'll-
throw that out, that you may be trying to wedge something in there that
Yes, I agree.
nobody may use because
well,
it
and
doesn't
that-
fit.
I think that kind of goes along with the whole, we're worrying too much about something that we don't need to worry about, like with the kids' birthday parties. I don't see a whole lot of kids saying, oh, Mom and Dad, I want to have my birthday party there. When there's Hafer, the new playground there. I mean, I don't see that as being such a big issue. Whereas,
Maybe it's just shade structures that we're looking for.
whereas,
Yeah,
you know,
maybe it's just
people like
something
us
simple.
might want to actually like go here, you know, look around, reflect, you know, pack a lunch or, you know, take our lunch break there, something like that. I do see that being a thing.
So if we're getting rid of,
Go ahead, sir.
And we do have a straight, shade structure, it's the front. You know,
Well, I think what we were talking about is more if, in case if there was anything, you know, we could, obviously with the trees and everything, grow up the canopy, you know, and if it is just some kind of cantilever thing on the back that adds kind of a more, even a backdrop to the flags and everything like that, if that could be back there.
Well, there's like the pergola style.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some really interesting things you can get out there where it's more of a, house and everything, so but we'll get some images and everything like that. But again, then that's partial what they have to come up with.
if we're eliminating the pavilion, do you guys, how do you feel about this connection? Do you think that that's,
Can I ask what the size in comparison to, say, the overhang, the wings on that, size-wise? Yeah, from there across is what?
126.
Okay, and so how big are you saying that circle?
you know, it's-
Size comparison, that looks really big
yeah,
to me.
it was a random, I mean, obviously we could, that's 78 feet, yeah.
You know, something
I
like
say
that.
we need to reduce that down a little.
Yeah, I would think something like that it'd be kind of a cool, still like a gateway piece. I mean, who's been down at the University of Oklahoma one and seen that one? I mean, I think that's probably maybe here to the water chest, about that other column, big, about a circle, maybe less than that. And it has a kind of a nice,
You're
it,
talking about the table?
About 30 feet.
yeah. Yeah, that one right there by Memorial Stadium, that was actually if you guys had never heard the story, that was originally supposed to have been there when they first started. It's what Owen wanted, and they never built it. They kept saying, nah, we won't do this, we won't fund this thing, forget it, oh, it got cut out of the budget. And I guess when Gaylord came in there and he found out about it, he's like, I'm not gonna give you a penny until you finish this. He's like, I'm not gonna donate any money to the stadium, the school, or anything. He's like, you finish this first. Because they kept on getting pushed aside. It's close enough, right? Close enough.
Casey, do you have any idea, our Native American statue over
Mhm.
here by UCO, any idea what the width on it, its base is?
The base, like the base that it stands on?
Yeah, just,
If you'd asked me 3 years ago, I wouldn't know. I don't know. And it's not,
5 by 5.
no, it's bigger
It's
than
bigger
that.
than
It's a
that.
big statue.
Well, no, I've driven past it. I'm 6'5", and I think if I laid down on one end.
The round base?
Are
that
you
it's-
talking about the pedestal base, or are you talking about the whole?
Yeah.
Plaza.
yeah, well, like,
The whole, it's built up and then it comes up. from
yeah,
there.
like the bottom part that is on the ground.
I don't know. But it's bigger than 6 feet for sure.
Right.
Because
Maybe
the
10-ish.
stat, yeah. I can find out, but that's not gonna do you any good now.
Yeah.
So,
something, and something like that, yeah.
In my head, I'm picturing something like that size, but with a much smaller statue.
Our list, I'm assuming we'll expand it a little bit in terms of, I look and we say new parking lot layout. Well, we don't want it laid out just to be redoing it. We want it to get additional parking spaces.
Correct, yeah,
You
and
know,
that- and that's-
this is just shorthand for us to work from.
Right, yeah, and then that's kind of like whenever we go to, and again, to the next one, we show them, they're gonna see, hey, you've got a new parking lot there. Like, we want a whole new layout. We want, the dog park, with its redevelopment, okay, we need to get some more spots over there, because there was, well, they park over at Mardell's. Well, what happens when some guy takes a pit bull over to your thing over there, that Mardell's owner, the REIT, whoever owns that, finds out about that's gonna go, done, once it's in stuff, so if they have anything, so. And those types of properties change hand all the time, so you can't rely on that from one year to the next for that property owner to allow those, people to park on there who are not visiting or shopping at his place and stuff, so.
There's roughly 66 stalls shown.
Mhm.
I don't know what the number we were shooting for. I did kind of expand it over, and I know this area drops off a little bit, so
Yeah.
if we go much further, we're gonna get into retaining walls.
Retaining wall, yeah.
Stuff like that, so.
The way it is now, there's a lot of wasted space.
Yeah.
Because it has that,
There's
it's
the-
like a U, like, what do you call that? Almost like a roundabout type.
Yeah, it has a.
And it's underneath where it says Bickham, but there's, a roundabout and, I mean.
There's a bunch of landscape buffering in there and stuff. that we
It's,
could
yeah,
probably-
totally useless. I mean,
I meant to go by and just kind of look at it again, because I can't really see the satellite, but I do think that, one thing we do need is a drop-off,
Right.
for buses and things like that,
Mhm.
so. I don't know if it's a new parking lot or if it's just resurfaced and restriped to save money. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and we're used to working with stuff that gets VE'd out all the time.
Yeah.
They say, hey, cut that back.
There's potential to get some more parking here, but I think this is a low area as well. So I don't, without having a survey, it's hard to really see.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that currently the parking lot comes out to here, so there's a pretty good right-of-way. I'm assuming that's for utilities. So I didn't want to expand into that, and then the same thing over on this side.
Yeah, we can't.
I think we stay with the limit on these two sides of what's there.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you moved it over more towards the east at all, I mean, I'm sure the neighbors are gonna be like, no, I don't want cars
Yeah, there may be some sort of an easement. It looks to me like there is,
through there, yeah.
right through here, there's an easement of some sort, so try to stay, that side of it.
They'll do landscape mitigation along that area too, and
Lines,
everything for,
buffers.
yeah, and everything, so.
Do we have any idea how many veterans reside in Edmond?
Everybody's looking at a meeting.
I know what our rolls are, about 500.
Probably
At just
double
the
that.
American Legion.
There's way more than that.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that doesn't even include the people that go to UCO.
Well, and most young
You know, their ROTC.
men and women don't join
Right.
the American Legion or the SF Association or the VFW.
Yeah.
Most of us old farts.
Yeah, I joined,
Yeah.
so hey, settle down. settle
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
Hey,
You
remember
might
that?
could do a
Oh,
little
well,
bit
good for you.
with driver's license, with the veteran stickers pulled. I don't know if you can pull zip codes out of that. I would assume you could.
I'm
And
sure
come up
there's-
with-
I don't know that they'll let you access that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, somebody in the city staff can.
Point to me.
Well, you're our city staff person, so
You're right.
you'd ask somebody, but yes, you can pull that stuff. I mean, they could go through, I mean, somebody could get on a GIS system, and I'm sure there's gonna be something that they could figure out, or if there's some data thing that the planners always use to pull out numbers
I was
from.
gonna say, in the state, we say that there's about 1 in 10 for our population
Mhm.
that serves, that
would
is a
make-
veteran.
Right.
So our population here now is 80?
No.
No, almost 90.
No, over 90.
Over-
We're about
Over
95,000.
90? Okay, I was gonna say 88, 95?
Yeah.
So probably close to,
9 to 10,000.
And I'd say maybe a little higher, be a desired tinker location.
Well, and the reason I'm asking
Probably
that
12.
is just with the city, wouldn't hurt them to know that as a sales pitch of why.
Right.
You know,
Well, we'll put it on our list, but so that we need to know our veteran count. When's the next census go out? 2 years? Okay. Actually, a little over a year. Okay, so I mean, they're right there, and I think one of the questions on there is too, and plus, I mean, you can pull a bunch of those types of numbers together, a planning department can. There's a ton of sites to be able to access that type of information.
Chamber may have it.
Yeah. They'll be able to.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, no, they won't have that.
Oh, okay.
From a donor standpoint, what do you guys think about the areas and what are some of the ideas? You know, we've got some opportunities at the front and maybe back here.
We're talking about veteran donors, so I mean, some ideas about how we would go about that.
Are you talking about how to recognize them?
They
Or just
incorporate.
opportunities to incorporate donors to,
And one thing that I thought might, is, if you had some stuff, I think along through the pathways, if there were some way to recognize some donors there,
I mean-
and then you could do it at the front, along through that and stuff.
No, opportunities. I
Yeah.
mean, you could sponsor a tree, you could
Right.
put a plaque on each one of those pillars. I mean,
And
you could, there's
I sent a thing
so
over
many
to
things.
Casey, and I saw it on LinkedIn. I think it was Evansville, was that the one that had the banners? But they had basically throughout the whole town light poles. You see how we do all the Christmas banners and stuff?
They do that for the Memorial Marathon.
Right, so, but this
Yeah.
is one where, if we do have some kind of polls through here, and what they were doing is they said, starting from this day forward, if your son or daughter graduates from boot camp, you send us those pictures, we'll automatically take care of them, we'll put them up on a banner throughout the town. It stays there. It's not 4th of July stuff, it's not Veterans Day stuff, it's 365, it's up there. And then, but if you don't meet that threshold, you have to pay for it. And so, because that's what you get to a point to where you say, well, you could do this all day long. And they finally said, okay, we're doing this. Here it is. From this point on, if you graduate from boot camp, you send us the picture, the city will take care of it. If they prove that, hey, you're a born and raised resident, we'll take care of it. Everybody else, you gotta buy it and stuff. And then we'll put it all up, and so, I mean, there could be stuff like that throughout there, some banner type things, and then there could be, hey, you just wanna buy a plaque. And I like a lot of that stuff is in a kind of a, once you get the budget nailed down and everything, you kind of work with the designers and say, okay, how do we now, what's some ways that they've done before for fundraising type of opportunities there and everything. And I think,
Well, what we have, yeah, there's sponsorship and then there's individual.
right. And I think that one of the things is we didn't want to be inside of this. We didn't want,
People.
well, we didn't want,
It's reserved for the military.
right, we didn't want, whoever, Joe Blow's company to come in there and say, well, I'm gonna donate $1 million because my dad was a veteran. I want to be able to put my name right there next to a guy who has a Purple Heart. Like, no, sorry, you want to donate that money, we'll gladly recognize you along the path or somewhere else, but to be able to get in there, like those are the names of, if it's a name or we're just doing the verses from, leaders and stuff that put in there about, service.
The reason that I mention it is because when we do the final presentation to the city, I think just indicating areas, like we would like to see donor opportunities here
Yeah.
and here.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that we need to really necessarily figure out
Yeah,
what it
don't need a
is. I
program,
mean, if we
yeah.
have some good ideas, then
Yeah.
we can include those, but I just was thinking about that as I was laying it out, this seems like a good area up at the front. I don't know how, I know we talked about not doing brick pavers.
Yeah.
But, is it part of the building or, like you mentioned, like
Is it an actual plaque or anything? And then, I mean, if you go in and you look at like, the zoo, for instance, the zoo has, and if somebody wants to do, like a paver plaque where it's an actual bronze plaque on, that's cast into the concrete, hey, we could do those along the walkway. And those things will obviously stand up to a long amount of time and everything. So, but I think that we've all said and agreed that the brick pavers is a no-go because of the wear and tear on them. Because, you're actually defacing, you're messing up the brick the minute you cut into it. And so it's, and stuff, so. But I think that, there is, throughout that whole area, I do agree, there's plenty of like the trees, or if we have some benches and stuff, and anything else like that.
I would mention too, just from the history, I would think that the city would want to avoid getting into the plaque business, because the history of what we have in Stevenson Park is people who wanted a brick, names got misspelled, bricks got put in places they didn't want them. They wanted them next to so-and-so and they got put over here.
Right.
They misspelled the names, they put wrong things on them. And so it was just a constant reordering, redoing, that the people involved in that original memorial had to deal with.
And maybe even if too, as we've said that, hey, we want some kind of quote educational technology piece in there, as you're walking along and stuff like that. You hate to say it, but a commercial pops up kind of that says, hey, thank you to this company for donating and everything. And if it's on a screen as we're searching veterans' names, types, things like that, it'll be like, hey, it'll pop up and it says or just continuously rolls through, or even on the website, at the bottom, thank you to whoever made a donation. It's almost like an OETA type of a thing where they're, as you call in or whatever, at the bottom, they thank you to this family for donating $5,000 in honor of their father who, died in this war or whatever.
But along with the plaques, I think you could have the opportunity where maybe a plaque company was chosen and a certain size was chosen.
Right.
And
Uniformity.
a certain color was chosen, and then if a family wanted to purchase a plaque, then they would be responsible for paying for it, ordering it, bringing to the city. Then the city would install it in a certain area perhaps, and that way they'd be uniform, they'd be consistent, and if there was a mistake, it would be the people who
Yeah,
ordered
I
it who
think
made the mistake.
it should, whatever, like, if, maybe like a contract could be written up and just say like, you know, here's the form, you fill it out in your own handwriting, you're responsible. You know, if we can't read it, we won't make it, or, you know, there's no guarantee on where it will be placed. You know, it will be within this place to this place. You
Yeah.
know, it'll be at random. And if they don't agree with that, then don't buy one.
Yeah. And so I put that down here as another thing, as one of our notes, is, you know, fundraising, you know, uniformity of plaques, type of, that needs to be kind of almost when we get to that point, it almost can be like a subcommittee. And maybe something, you know, again, maybe we send another email out to this group and say, hey, by the way, we're now into the subcommittee phase or something, or trying to figure out some plaques. We'd like just an input night if you're able to come up here and just kind of talk and look through it and everything.
I think it'd almost have to be a city staff office or person or something
Well-
that they went to, because a bunch of volunteers, it's gonna be really hard
Well,
to
I think on that one, you
manage
know,
that on an ongoing basis.
We need to-
Contracting, like you said, through a company would be
we
a
need to
great
look
idea.
at, you know, how does, you know, well, I mean, I only know the Cleveland County one, right, that you can fill out your paperwork, you know, and you gotta provide a DD 214 and you send it to them. I mean, maybe we could talk to them and, you know, and say, okay, how do you do this? And who do you contract through? Because my name wasn't misspelled, which has been misspelled all my life.
And
so-
who are they that you're talking about?
I don't know,
You
I just,
send it
I sent in the form with my DD 214
To who?
to the Cleveland County, just to say, here,
That's
email
what
it to
he's
them.
saying.
Yeah,
We
email
need
it
to
to
get
them.
with them.
And so there's other places that we can ask, you know, how did you go about this? Lessons learned, what hiccups have you had, and what would you change to go back from the start, and everything, so.
One
You
of
guys
one
have
of the
7
things-
minutes left.
Okay.
Going back to what you said, one of the things, my experience has been, you really gotta look out for. If the city's responsible, an individual's gonna be responsible ultimately, and that individual's gonna have a supervisor,
Yeah.
those two entities change.
Right.
And so all of their knowledge and all of their experience changes. Plus, you know, the mayor says, we gotta really tighten up our budget.
He's gone,
and-
yeah.
And we're not gonna have any more new hires, and this is just something that'll be lost over time.
Right.
And so, all of this ongoing maintenance stuff, we need to really watch out for that and back away from as much of that as we can. Because 20 years from now, 30 years from now, it won't happen. It'll be gone, I guarantee you.
Right. Well, and I think that's something too, like my mom sits on the board for the endowment for the gathering place. So there's an endowment that was kind of set up in perpetuity to the ongoing maintenance that'll always be taking place there. Is that something that we need to look at? Does a certain amount of, we're doing fundraising and everything else, but let's say if, hey, there's a donor that comes in and says, hey, I want to donate a pretty good amount of chunk of money, do we say, hey, can we have a talk, and would you like to be the ongoing, and, you know, would you like to help fund the endowment for ongoing maintenance type of a thing? That kind of helps subsidize a lot of that and everything, so. And then that could also be where we come in and we talk to Brian Doherty down at Community Foundation with the Margaret Sanger Voice Trust and say, you know, can we get that as kind of, you know, a grant to ongoing to help out these things, or is the Kirkpatrick Foundation and other ones like that to take care of those types of things. So I think we also put on here, you know, we need to know ongoing maintenance.
Okay, so I think what I heard from everybody was we're getting rid of the permanent pavilion. We're okay with the location of the memorial. We're looking at donor opportunities at the front and at the back. Is everybody okay with the location of this entry element?
Yes.
I mean, we can continue to talk about it after everybody's had time to think about it next time, I guess.
I would say we can do that, if, you know, give it a little bit to mull over it, and if you have anything that you'd like to see on that, we can talk about our next one for a little bit. But again, we need to keep moving on so we can say, because, again, the landscape guy or whoever come in and say, Jason, I love what you did, I'm gonna take a little bit of this, and then next thing you know, he's like, but this would be awesome, and then we're going, wow, we never even thought of that.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm working on 2 projects with Scott.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, he's really good.
Okay, well then, there you go.
He's good at taking directions.
Huh? Yeah.
So I'd like to see some ideas of the edges of the pond, like Matt was talking
Okay.
about. And then also, maybe, we talked about the entry from the neighborhood, and maybe some kind of a smaller version of what is there by the parking lot that could be there on the east,
Yeah.
to kind of copy that same theme of the gateway into the memorial there. And then maybe also where you've got that place over by the pond, maybe again, a smaller one of those kind of gateway structures that would be at the end of that path that connects the circle to the pond. That then trails around the pond might tie into
Yeah, I'll get
that
some
kind of
pictures
starting
over
point.
there with some, that allow you guys to kind of understand where a lot of it is. But then it's just a lot of the, there's been, you know, we're not the only ones throughout the country that have redone their little river and stuff. So there's been a lot of them that they wanted to go back and they're redone, but it's more of a, you know, either it's a river or a pond, but kind of that whole idea of where there's places to sit, and then the bench seats just kind of just disappear into the grass or the surrounding areas and stuff like that. So, well, we've got 2 more minutes. Does anybody have anything left that they would like to add?
I need to know what you want on your agenda for the next meeting.
Keep it same.
Okay. Don't need anything, you don't think you'll be prepared to go into budget and funding?
Budget talk,
Potentially.
I think
I can come to the next meeting with some rough numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on there in case you guys get through the concept part. We wanna make sure that it's on there, so, okay.
Can I just ask, has everybody been to Vic and Redkin and walked through it? Yes, yes,
Yep.
yes. Okay. I just want to make sure.
All right, does anybody have anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
See you on the 19th.
All right. Thank you, everybody.